Hi everyone, I'm Sapphira. I am the creator of World Burlesque Day and the author of a mental health recovery memoir, Burlesque or Bust. And it's been my vision with World Burlesque Day to really raise the art form to its highest potential so we can reach more people. In fact, at the beginning of this year, I began mentoring the burlesque industry in a program called Boost Your Burlesque Strategy, because in the 15 years I've been involved in the scene, I've supported myself as a senior corporate career woman in publishing at the largest publishing houses and media homes. So I've worked in outdoor advertising, internet, and I started at the age of 16 as a print journalist. And what I realized in 15 years of working in these two worlds is how to approach businesses, how to behave professionally, how to communicate, and even write simple email structures that make my emails unforgettable. And in doing this, I've managed to reach the highest tiers of the music industry and the business world, including Richard Branson, Dita Von Teese Lingerie, and many more. But today I'm here to talk about something that really is deeply needing to be addressed in our scene, and that is bullying. I've been the victim and target of it. And as World Burlesque Day grew in prevalence, more people started contacting me privately, saying it's so wonderful to have something so heart-centered and connecting, because they had personally had some really horrible experiences in burlesque. And that made me really grieve. This wonderful art form that can give so much healing and precious elements for us all to rise up and transcend the norms and the restrictions we've placed on ourselves is also fraught with some very dark and upsetting things happening. And so I contacted the best-selling author I could find of bullying in the arts, Dr. Anne-Marie Quigg, and began some really intensive research on why this happens and how we can address it. And today you'll see a panel right now of 8 countries talking about how bullying exists in their community, how it's affected them, and how they've resolved it. And we'll talk about mostly the solutions, because for me, the only way World Burlesque Day can really achieve its goal of raising our profile is if we also start to really behave completely professionally in our schools, in our festivals, in our shows, backstage, front of house. I believe it is possible to rebrand and reposition our scene so that we rise to the highest heights. I believe we don't want bullying in our communities, and I can only understand and interpret what I see as bullying being a spiritual quandary. And I see burlesque from quite a spiritual perspective, and that's because I've been sectioned with psychosis. So I've looked at my mind and state of mind very deeply for the last 15 years to really heal myself. And to me, in burlesque, what's happening is a lot of people are coming to this light to understand their sex and sensuality issues. And in those sex and sensuality issues, there's some shadow work. And by shadow, I mean the darker side of ourself. And sometimes that darker self has issues around sex and sexuality, has issues around authority, has childhood latent, deep-seated issues. And to me, that's what we're seeing when we're seeing the bullying behaviors taking place. We are not seeing the highest version of ourselves or those people that are the bullies being brought forward. We are seeing some childhood traumas being played out. It's my personal analysis, and I believe, because I've addressed many of my personal childhood traumas to heal from being sectioned and excommunicated, I've understood a bit more about this shadow that I have, and I've worked very hard to be as masterful as I can with it. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. It's long, it's a 2-hour panel with 8 people around the world and countries, actually 9 of us in conversation. There is definitely work to be done, but we are starting to already unite and open this conversation. I want to also personally extend a heartfelt butterfly, which is my symbol, to anybody I have had any bullying experiences from. You might know who you are as I speak to the community. You might know some of the things that were hurtful and said and done. And to me, forgiveness is the only way any of us are going to ever thrive in business and in life and in art, and really let go of resentments. And so that's where I come from with this. It's about forgiveness, and it's about really burying the hatchet. So I forgive you and ask for you to really hear today our stories with an open heart and realize how brave these people are, sharing some of what's happened to them. No names are named, but we just wanted to give you a sense of what levels we are in the industry and how these things have happened to us, so we can address it and remove it forevermore, or at least have plans to deal with it when it rises. Thank you for listening to me and being part of the World Burlesque Day vision. Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Sapphira. I'm the creator of World Burlesque Day. I am a published author and a mental health advocate, and it's my passion to really create an amazing burlesque community where we are encouraging the public to experiencing our art form, demystifying it, and when they arrive, them having a wonderful transformation experience. So I wanted to host today a panel with 8 people from countries around the world to discuss one of the darker parts of burlesque, which is the bullying that does happen and is rife at times in our scene. So I'm here to let each person on the panel introduce themselves. I'm an Australian based in London, and I hope you enjoy the conversations and the solutions that we'd like to focus on and suggest could be a way forward. We'll start with Devi.
Hello everyone, my name is Devi Letalis. I'm from Austria, Vienna. I've been in burlesque for around 5 years, and I started producing a show that's really focused on an anti-bullying policy that's really about embracing yourself, and also really about just giving a platform for everyone to create an image of themselves that's important to them, also to help them deal with anxieties, with problems they had. And I'm a very open-minded person that people around where I live know they can come to and talk to you, and that's why I'm very passionate about tonight's topic. So that's why I'm here, and I'm really happy Sapphira wants me here. So I'm really looking forward to really, yeah, really, I don't know, inspiring talk with everyone.
Welcome. Thank you, Devi. And we'll now speak to Red Baroness.
Hi, everybody. I'm Red Baroness. I'm from South Africa, living in South Africa. I grew up being bullied because of my size, my weight, my religion. And I believe that everybody should be accepted regardless of their race, their color, their sexual preference. Nobody should discriminate against anybody else. And I believe if we talk more about this and we learn to accept each other, I think it will be a better place. So I'm very honored to be part of this. I actively am campaigning against gender-based violence. And for me, gender-based violence is not men against women, it's person against person. It's got, you know, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, even in the burlesque scene as well, with different gender, different race, different colors, different religious backgrounds. And for me, that's never okay. It's never okay to discriminate against another human being. We all have our own emotions and our own way of dealing things, and we're individuals, and we need to learn and to love and accept those differences.
Definitely. Let's hear from Dominique now.
Hi everybody, my name is Dominique Oysten and I'm in Melbourne, Australia, and I've had a 25-year career as an international opera singer and in musicals and the corporate arena. And I now have created my own business called the Goddess Voice Academy, which is actually about speaker coaching and teaching. What I've found is that women's voices in particular, but this goes across the board, is that people are so frightened of fully expressing who they authentically are. And there are so many shut down experiences and so much shaming and fear about, this is me, this is who I am, let me be visible, let me be seen and heard with my voice. And so my whole coaching is about supporting particularly women at the moment to trust their own voice, to trust their power, and to be able to step forward with their voice, even if there is a disapproval or some sort of shaming from the outside. And how do we build in the skill sets to step forward with our light, with our passion, and just be who we want to be? So yeah, I'm a best-selling author and a speaker and a singer, and this is my work now, business owner. Yeah. So I'm really happy to be here.
Great. I can't wait to hear some of your thoughts and solutions, Dominique. Thank you so much. Elisa and Hazel, who are in Mexico.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, well, we are from Mexico City. We have maybe 8 years in burlesque. And want to talk? Nosotras trabajamos por crear una comunidad que abrace todo lo diferente. En México, todo lo que no entra en los estereotipos es violentado fuertemente. Entonces, trabajamos muy duro para que la comunidad de burlesque pueda abrazar y estas personas distintas, todos somos distintos, se acepten y se quieran. Y justo nuestra comunidad es muy amorosa a lo diferente. Okay, we are working for create a community, a burlesque community in Mexico, because in Mexico, all the people that are different, it's really bullied. Then for your skin color, for if you are not hegemonic, that's a word, you have violence in you, but we are working for this lovely and lovable community so we can embrace the other people and we can hug the people that are different. And we are so proud of what we have built until today, because we have a lot of diversity people and say like, yeah, we are doing great. We have a lot of job in front, but I think we are being good.
I can sense that about your community from even the year we've known each other just online, that it's really supportive and there's, you know, much more welcome for all types. You've got it just comes across. So well done that you're doing that, and you're trying to break the clicks. It's excellent. So welcome. Okay, we have Bitch Sassidy from Calgary in Canada.
Hello. Hello, my name is Bitch Sassidy. My pronouns are she, they. I'm up here in the north. It's still really, really cold here. I run a company along with 4 other board members of Queer Femmes. We run Cabaret Calgary and we run shows usually on the weekly, but we've been shut down since November here. So as time goes on, we've just moved online. It's not quite the same, but we're still trying to keep that community together and really encourage people to pull through. I come into burlesque from an acting background, so I studied the voice, Dominique, and how important that is to getting in touch with oneself. And it's truly incredible when you start getting into it. So I'm really excited to hear everything you have to say. And then I came into burlesque because of some bullying that I experienced there, but also have observed in the burlesque community. So this conversation, I'm super thrilled to hear how it is for other people around the world and from other points of view. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. I know it's really amazing, the different things that we've all come to, and especially the component of the voice, because I think in particular, I find that when I'm most feeling under threat, my voice tends to get stuck in my throat. It's not even that I'm silenced. I silence myself, you know, because I'm just too scared. So I've had to work on that to be assertive in business and in burlesque, which sometimes it is required. So very much welcome. We have the incredible Jake DuPree in Los Angeles. How are you, darling?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I feel truly honored to be amongst all of you. I'm Jake DuPree, as she said, and my pronouns are they, them. I'm a non-binary individual who does burlesque / boylesque, And I live in Los Angeles, but I'm originally from Newport, Arkansas, which is a really, really small town. And there's about 3 stoplights in the whole town, and the biggest thing we have is Walmart. So there's that.
Wow.
And but yeah, I come from a background of, it's an extremely conservative area. Luckily, my family is not, but to be included in that, I think it has brought me to the point where I am now in terms of how I perform and present myself. And I think bullying has been, unfortunately, a big part of my life, and I think it's really influenced how I am, unfortunately, but also in a good way too. And I feel like bullying amongst so many different types of art forms, including musical theater, which I was a big part of, and also in the fitness world, which I'm a fitness instructor too, it's still this there's always this underlying venomous bullying element to all of them. And I think that I really want to fight to end that, and to get people to talk about it, and to just engage and hopefully support each other.
Yeah, I seriously think that it's possible. And I think just even this and talking about it is a very positive step in the way forward for burlesque. And I'm certainly finding, you know, once everybody hears from different tiers of the industry and people all across the world that this is happening, it makes it more visible, and it might make, you know, an individual not feel so awkward about talking up. So well done to all of us. And I'm really sorry to hear you had those experiences. I can imagine, never really felt like I particularly fit in the writing world or in poetry or in higher education, where I've also found myself a lot, or the religious world, which was the beginning of my kind of misfit like syndrome. And now I've decided to just embrace being a misfit. I think we should all just admit we're misfits, but there's a big lot of us, so it's awesome. Welcome. And then we have incredible Lady Blue Phoenix. How are you, darling?
Good morning, evening, afternoon, everybody. So my name is Lady Blue Phoenix. I'm originally from Seattle, Washington, so the Pacific Northwest. I've lived in Japan for 5 years, and then I've been in England now for, oh my gosh, almost 10 years. Yeah, I've been here for a while. Growing up, did dance at home mainly. Tried to get into dance in school, never fit in. Was always the larger kid, or the unique kid, or the different kid. And that just kind of kept going until, well, I left. I just kind of said, you know what? I like being me. I like being myself. So forget it. I'm gone. When I moved to England, went to a burlesque show, fell in love with it, and have never looked back. Been performing now for almost 5 years. I've produced shows. I am part of the After Dark Cabaret, which is run by Miss Carmen Aurora for production teams. I'm part of the Rocks of the Foxes troupe down in Portsmouth, and I'm also part of the Milky Family for Hooray Cabaret. So yeah, just pretty much doing as much as I can in the community, because when I joined burlesque, when I first joined burlesque, I didn't have the best of all experience. I actually stopped for a year. I quit, and then I came back. And since I've been back, you know, I've had tougher skin and such, but it is still a problem, and it is something that we need to address. We need to make that realization that some things we just can't turn a blind eye to anymore and be like, oh, but that won't happen to me, or, you know, we need to come together and support each other more and stop being divided, because the more we let things divide us, the less we are actually a community. So yeah, but I'm so proud to be here. Thank you, Sapphira, for messaging me and getting me to be here on this panel with a bunch of great people from around the world.
Isn't it exciting to hear all the different accents? Just think this is, yeah, it's incredible, the technology. And I'm only silver lining of the pandemic is it's forced us to get resourceful and reach out beyond our 4 walls. And suddenly I realized this whole world can be in my living room. I've had like an entire if I could have a plane ticket to all the people that have been right here where I've been sitting, I'd, you know, have millions of frequent flyer miles. So it's awesome. So I think we're going to really do a thing I tried to do when I told my story. When I had the chance to publish my book, Burlesque or Bust, it was a very difficult situation for me to come up with the story. And I really thought to myself, I want it to be 5% about the heartening and discouraging, destructive part, and 95% about all of the positives, because I just felt like that would be a healthier thing to contribute. And that was a nice way to do it. And I feel like that's almost like what I was thinking would be good in this panel, is if we had 5%, you know, talking about maybe each a bullying experience, if you're comfortable to. I don't want you to talk about anything that's too distressing unless you're ready to. But I thought it would be interesting to hear, 1, a bullying experience, 2, how it resolved, and or actually 1, a bullying experience, how it made you feel at the time and how it resolved. And then we could maybe spend the 95% looking at why it exists and what are some of the really major solutions that we could come up with, because I think that would be great if really the majority of this time was discussing ways that this could be, you know, elevated out of the scene. And that was my thought. So does everybody think that's a good idea? Thumbs up? Great. Again, I don't want to dictate the format too much. So I'm going to share my bullying experience because it came when I was actually in a festival director partnership. And when I discovered reading about bullying, it was through this book by Dr. Anne-Marie Quigg, who we're having an interview with for World Burlesque Day, about bullying in the arts. And she defines the different types of bullying: peer bullying, corporate bullying, and very interesting hierarchical bullying, and how it plays out in different organizations. She also looks at the types of personalities attracted to the arts, and she looks at all the different sectors. So from art galleries to museums to dance schools, it's, you know, theatres, and does a very tabulated, detailed analysis of the roles of each of the people in those organizations, the sexes, the ages, the genders, the races, the pay grades, and defines her research into tables to show you where the bullying is more rife. And it's fascinating. It's so in depth that, you know, I'm actually amazed that she's managed to be so forthright in publishing it. And she talks all over the world. She's got this book that's more focused on England and the UK, but she is an international expert too. So pair bullying is actually the experience I had, where I was in a partnership with 2 others, and I was like, you know, coming at this from a really different point of view, and probably quite fresh, having left like London and come back to my home country of Australia. And it was a really awful experience. And I lost my voice, interestingly, Dominique, in this time that I was being so viciously bullied. And because I'm very dynamic with the press, I would never say that I was a victim of bullying, because again, Anne-Marie says there's 2 experiences. The person's either a target or a victim. And often in this situation, it's the bully's objective to make sure that the target moves on, and that is their strategy. And then it tends to, you know, play out again, like if that's within a dynamic that they just can't handle being in competition with someone stronger. So the experience was the bullying took place in terms of financial, like, you know, mismanagement, and a sort of almost punishment regime where money I had invested didn't get paid back to me in a timely fashion, and I had to get a mediator and my accountant involved. It turned into a smear campaign against me, and eventually I started my own dance school to try and create a better environment of what I hoped burlesque could be. And towards the end, it just got so exhausting, I decided to move back to London, where I'd never felt so pushed against. And I felt once I came home to London, even my friend in Australia said, you just look happier. All your social media photos look shiny and your face is radiant. And I realized that in London, there is just such an amazing support network, and maybe being a foreigner, there's more, you know, respect for each other, but also everybody's here grafting. And I felt like I just have never encountered that kind of target of bullying there. And that hurt because I had invested money to build something into the scene. I poured hours into publicity because it's my passion, and I'm a great organizer and communicator with the press, because I studied journalism as a very beginning kind of student at 16. So it was hurtful. What happened was I lost my voice. I had major anxiety. It almost made me want to stop, you know, burlesque altogether. And it turned into a very, you know, huge emotion upheaval for me. Hard to know where to go, because, you know, I was so senior in the industry, and hard to know who to talk to. I couldn't confide in my students, couldn't really confide in many people in the city. So the way it resolved was I did some personal development work. I actually went and learned how to do a proper forgiveness process through an organization called More to Life. I looked in the mirror and actually looked myself in the eye and forgave myself, and then began a cost process and forgiveness process with the person that I had a resentment to in my mind. So that was a spiritual part of letting that resentment go that was holding me like a stranglehold. And the other way it resolved was I literally did. I started my own environment in that city, and then eventually I left and just, you know, cut myself off from the organization and from the community there altogether. And I think it really made a difference. And it's drastic to have left the country, but I actually felt that it was necessary. And, you know, to this day, I feel for various people at a higher level in our scene, because I think it gets harder to find someone to talk to. So I want to encourage people at every stage of your career, if you feel you're being bullied and you know are working with high top people, it doesn't mean they're not capable of some of those bullying behaviors. So that's my story. Devi?
So it should work now. Yeah, okay. I get your story so much. I was feeling like I should leave too at some point, but I didn't, and there's a very good reason for this. So I have a musical background. I started out as a singer. I did opera, also at the Viennese Opera, and yeah, did quite a few things that were really important to me, and there was a lot of bullying going on there. Also a lot of really nice, warm people that I cherish until today, and they're still good friends. But you know, you always have two sides. You always have the ones that inspire you and lift you up and support you, and then on the other side you have those that are a bit problematic. And I started with burlesque because it was so different from this pretty strict classical music scene that I was in before. And I felt like dancing like this and expressing myself like this could give me a new perception on myself. Because it was like, I'm doing what I want to do. I'm not just singing music like somebody tells me to from notes I have in front of me. I'm just doing what I'm feeling. And I'm really good at expressing myself with this. That's how I started out. And I grew quickly very passionate about doing burlesque and wanted to do more and do more events, getting booked more, which is really hard in Vienna because our scene is pretty small. We only have 3 producers, one being myself. So it's hard getting booked. There's also not a lot of chances for women that aren't very slim. So that's the next thing. And then it started like one of the producers here told me at a Christmas party that we set up, like bringing the scene. So the idea behind it was bringing the Viennese scene together. And she started bullying people there. And she told one person that's really dear to me that she was too old to do burlesque and nobody wants to see that. And she told me to my face that everybody only sees the fat girl in me and my music was annoying. And this was so, I was shocked in the first moment. I was shocked. And I didn't quite know how to respond in the first moment. But I think I grew up pretty self-aware, and also I think I dare speak to people and calling them out, and I said, hey, it's not okay talking like that to people. Do you even recognize what you're doing with people, what you're doing with them? Because you're changing people's perception saying something like this. So this has an effect on everyone. And afterwards, I talked to my friend who was told she was too old to do burlesque. And this hurt me even more. This was when I got angry. Before I was shocked and I was disappointed in her, but then I got angry because she did this with other people that were important to me, and I got protective. And that's when I also got motivated and when I started producing my own show. And I said from the beginning, and everyone working with me knows, that I don't tolerate bullying in any form. There's no verbal abuse, there's nothing. Everyone is welcome. And so it's like really open speech. Whenever there's some problem or you have some like mental issues, you can just come talk to me. I'm understanding everything. And then that's also where some kind of smear campaign started, where the other producer told everyone I'm unapproachable and I'm really mean and you can't talk to me and everything. And people still believe this after years of me working in the scene. And there still has been so much like backstage bullying, like just talking shit about other people, that a lot of performers quit around here. And that just makes me upset and it makes me sad, because I just wish they knew I was out there and they could come and talk to me, and I could say, come to Cabaret Curiosa, come to my event, talk to me. I'm giving you a platform to express yourself, just how you feel and how you are. And I just wish they knew this. And this is also part of why I'm here and why I'm trying to make myself and my point seen. So people around the world and also around where I live know I'm out there and they can just reach out and talk to me.
Beautiful. Well done you, and well done you on talking up and like being assertive, because that it can be really difficult. Red, would you like to share next?
Hi. For me personally, I grew up coming from a very Christian background, so very much like you, Sapphira. You know, you listen to certain kind of music and it's from the devil, and I'm like, well, now my horns are bigger than yours, and they literally are. So I have a set that I perform with, and they pretty much make me almost 7 foot on stage, which I absolutely love. But you know, I grew up thinking, you know, I don't fit in. I come from a Christian background. I'm fat, I'm overweight, I'm unlovable. I found burlesque and it opened up a door where I was just absolutely accepted and loved. But having said that, I've experienced for myself personally, applying for shows here in South Africa, to be told, sorry, you're not of an international standard. And I've had to, the way I've resolved it has been to my own self be true. So that's your opinion of me. That's absolutely fine. Everybody's entitled to opinion, but I know the caliber of person that I am. And I've allowed that, I've not allowed my past or what used to hurt me come into it anymore. I've had to go, wait a minute, that's not who you are. You've worked from that. You've become somebody different. You know, I've been told I'm too old, or I'm just not going to fit in. It's not what they're looking for. Well, that's fine, you know, or that, you know, it's we need bums in seats and that's what pays for the show. We need the money and you're not a showstopper. And those are very, very hurtful things to hear from anybody, from anything. But what I've had to do is I've had to step aside and go, is this from a producer's point of view? Because at the end of the day, you're putting on a show and you do want the money to come in. You want the placeholder because that's how everybody makes money. So I've had to look at it from a professional point of view, but at the same time, go look at myself in the mirror and go, what that person says about me doesn't define who I am. It's not, their opinion is not what makes me. What makes me is who I am. And I'm okay with that. You know, so, and having said that, I come, you know, in South Africa, we still have a lot of very, very, very big racial issues with regards to people of color and different ethnicities of people, different races. And you would think that it's gone. It's not. It's unfortunately still a really big problem. And recently, it became quite an issue in the burlesque world here in South Africa, where a lot of stuff came out from the woodwork. A lot of stuff, a lot of people were highlighted. It was all over, you know, social media. And I took a step back from it. And this is really sad that this is coming out. What do the rest of the world think? What are people saying about it? But in the long run, it really needed to happen. It really needed to come out. And it needed to be, that particular issue needed to be exposed. And the change that has come because of it has been, you know, different groups beginning to mentor younger people, and the acceptance of gender, the acceptance of color, the acceptance of size, the acceptance of, it's okay, you know, if you want to perform with your armpits not shaved, that's just okay.
Great.
Everybody's preference. But there's been a lot more acceptance of what was formerly taboo. And I think there's also been a lot of control in the burlesque. And I think that's where a lot of the bullying comes in, where you have producers or, you know, people who've started their shows or started their companies, and they're getting older and there are younger people coming in the whole time. And it's almost kind of like, I don't want to relinquish where I am and my position in who I am. You know, if I do, I might lose myself. And so there's been a lot of control and a lot of issues around who I will have on stage with me and who I will allow to perform with me. And now I think with COVID, there's been been a blessing in disguise in that there isn't any more of that. There aren't stages where you can now discriminate. Everybody has a platform to get online, which I think is a really amazing thing that's happening. And there's been a lot more acceptance. For me personally, I don't see color. I'm colorblind. So growing up in South Africa, that's always been an issue for me, because like, I don't see what's the problem, you know, and campaigning against that, growing up the way that I have, for me, it's just not okay to ever discriminate against somebody, regardless of their age, regardless of their background, regardless of their color and their gender. We need to learn to love and accept each other. It's not okay to speak to somebody like that. And I don't keep quiet anymore. I used to be quite introverted because I was so scared, you know, that I'm going to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, and then nobody will like me, and then nobody will want to be around me, and I won't be involved in the next show. And now I don't care. Now, if something's not right, it's just not right. And I'm going to say something. And I think the more that we speak up about this and we say to, you know, to other people, it's not okay for you to treat another human being like that. Don't do that. You have no idea the impact that is making on another human being. To say to somebody, sorry, you know, you're too white, you're too black, you're too this, you're too that, you're too gay, you're not too gay, you know, you're too old, you're too thin, you're too fat. Who are we to judge one another like that? So that's kind of where I'm coming from, and I actively speak up against it. If I see something that's not right, we need to be in a place of loving one another. We need to be a place, and I think burlesque especially is one of those very rare art forms where the platform should be a total acceptance of absolutely every, it should be a place of total, absolute healing. Because number one, you're getting up there and you're taking your clothes off in front of a whole lot of people. That should be empowering somebody and not hurting them. It should be a place of healing and a place of going, wow, what an amazing, look how far you've come. Look what you've achieved in life. It's very important for me.
Yeah, I really love that. And that's interesting. You brought up like mentoring and just speaking up, and that did, and also the internet's changed some of that discrimination. Elisa and Hazel, are you following? We're sharing an instance. It can just be one of you or both of you where you felt bullied, how it felt and how it resolved.
Okay, Elisa. Tú. Bueno, yo fui bailarina hace mucho tiempo de ballet. I do ballet a long time ago. En este proceso de entrenamiento llevé a mi cuerpo a un extremo que no debería hacer y me lastimé los 2 isquiones de las 2 rodillas.
Okay, and then I hurt myself, the isquiones of my knees. I don't know what's the word for isquiones.
Rodillas.
My knees, because I treat my body like it's a punishment, all the training.
Okay.
Lo hice porque la presión en las escuelas de ballet es mucha y después de lastimarme no puedo usar las puntas. O sea, no puedo bailar danza clásica más.
And after I hurt myself, I can make ballet anymore.
Y me di cuenta que, bueno, después de eso decidí hacer producción, o sea, estar atrás de la escena.
After that, I decided to be backstage.
Y ese es un mundo de hombres.
And that's a man's world.
Entonces tenía un proceso que no había sanado, que era aceptar que no podía bailar más porque había llegado a un extremo. Y luego tuve que enfrentarme a este mundo masculino donde no caben las mujeres.
And I have all this dual, I can't dance anymore in my life, no professional. And now I have a lot of men tell me what to do.
Encontré que tenía que tener este proceso que fue a través del burlesque de aceptación a mi nueva condición, sí, a mi nueva forma de expresarme corporalmente, y encontré también el poder necesario de punch para enfrentarme a este mundo de hombres y decir como, por supuesto que yo tengo una voz y todos se callan y aquí se hace lo que yo digo.
Thanks to the burlesque, I find my own power. I feel really empowered. I embrace my inner goddess and I say, of course I can. Of course, it's my body and that's my voice. And my voice speaks really loud for all the people to be outside and I can create. Yeah, that's really good.
Trabajo en una posición que me permite apoyar a otras mujeres.
And now I can support other women.
A que su voz sea escuchada, a que su arte sea escuchado y a que sean aceptadas de todas las formas que existen, y no solo las mujeres, sino los grupos más vulnerables. Y me encanta, ¿no? Es una lucha constante con el machismo y con no dejar que alguien te calle en una junta de trabajo. Me enfrento mucho como a que en la mesa de decisiones soy la única mujer.
Okay, and my path now is to help to other men, other men, and other vulnerable groups can speak out loud and make them be hearing. And it's really healing for me. So in a table, make a table full of men, my voice can be heard and I can say, that's my group, that's my community, and we all need to say a lot of things. And we really need you to shut up and listen to us, and we empower that bodies, because that bodies have a speech, because that people had a speech. We use our bodies to say, hey, I exist, I'm here, and my body is valid, and I'm not my wounds. I'm
Yes.
not my past.
Yeah.
I'm not my feelings, my hurt feelings. I am now what you see and what I decide to show to you.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I was thinking about humor because we are Latins, so we are smiling all the time. We have this okay, we constantly say you need to laugh about what hurts to you.
Yeah.
And if the people says, you are ugly, yes, but I'm still paying for that. Yeah.
We love that.
Yeah.
Well,
You are fat, yes, and if you don't shut up, I sit on your face. Stuff. That's really
That's a great solution.
and that really help us to be free.
Yeah.
And to say, okay, that hurt, but that doesn't hurt anymore. I'm not a child in the playground. Now I am an adult and I can hold all these insecurities and say, I'm this woman now, I'm this man now, I'm this person. And I want to say, it's my shoulder, look at me.
Yes. Woo! Love it. Thank you so much. Did you want to also share for yourself, Hazel?
Oh, well, it's basically the same thing. I was all my childhood, I was the fat, ugly girl. And I say like, but I'm intelligent. And now I say, no, I'm both. I'm beautiful and I'm intelligent. So that diversity, that body positive, that fat shaming, I say, no, actually, I'm really cute and I don't that you beautiful to be happy.
Exactly.
Ugly. That's not a bad thing. It's just not hegemonic beauty, and that's okay.
Yeah. I love the way you say that. I want to have that as a passage on my wall.
Awesome. Yes.
Make it a poster in my house. It's beautiful.
Awesome. Thank you.
Amazing. Dominique, I'm interested because, you've been in opera, and have you experienced a bullying issue, and how did it make you feel, and how did it resolve?
Yeah, I was thinking which one I wanted to share, and I'd actually like to share a cultural bullying moment for me, which happened because I was born in England, and when I was 11, we came to Australia. And I'd like to talk about a couple of things, which are sensitivity and becoming conscious, and what we like this need to self-express, this need to be ourselves, and individualism, and how that compares to herd mentality. So here I was, this little English girl who'd been raised in the theatre, and I was enthusiastic about learning and life, and I was just really enthusiastic. And I was sitting in my first class at school, and the teacher asked, does anyone know the answer to this question? And I'm like, and because that's what we all did, where we just expressed our delight in life. And I felt this wave, like I'm quite intuitive and quite psychic and energetically sensitive. And I felt this wave of energy hit my back. And I was like, what the hell was that? And I turned around and I saw this sea of school kid faces all going, like literally, with the contempt lip curl gesture, which is, body language tells us the story. And I looked at it and I thought, oh, we're not allowed to do that here. We're not allowed to be enthusiastic. We're not allowed to stand out. And Australia is notorious for its tall poppy syndrome, which means that you play small, you stay in the herd, you don't stand out. Unless it's through humor and, being a good bloke, keeping everybody happy. And so I started to shrink. And I shrank and I shrank and I shrank until I went to, you know, a high achiever school in my teenage years. And there it was like we were given permission. There was an environment, a structure in which there was the permission to shine. But by then my voice was so shut down, so completely shut down, that I almost made this resolution inside myself that I would learn to speak my truth, come hell or high water. And the pathway for me was singing. So I couldn't articulate my thoughts, my feelings, my sensitivity, my confusion about who I was. But I went on that path of singing. And in singing, it's interesting. You have to audition, you have to compare, you have to compete. So you have to trust your own value, but you also get knockbacks. So it's this very interesting journey of constantly having to step up and say, I am worthy. And that I found more and more that this had to come from a place of core belief. And so in my work, working with people, what I notice is that there are layers and layers and layers where we all have these shadow wounds. We all have places where we've been shut down, and we've integrated these beliefs about not being worthy. We've integrated these beliefs that just me being me is not enough in some way. And so, yeah, it's this journey of consciousness, really. We have to all become conscious of our own shadow, our own wound, our own fear, our own shame, our own guilt, our own punishment and criticism of ourselves. Because what I'm learning from, you know, all the women I work with is that when we're not conscious of our own wound, we can actually start to try and control the environment around us. We hide, we feel miserable, or we become controlling. So there's two pathways. You know, you either make yourself invisible and feel shut down, or you start to try and control others so you feel safe. And becoming conscious of our own shadow, our own anger, our own fear, starts to really bring us into this state where we say, what is beneath that? And every time we meet a layer of our own numbing out to feeling those shadow feelings, underneath that is light. Underneath that is self-expression. Underneath that is an extra bit of joy. Underneath that is a bit of power and treasure and leadership. And I find that if we start to learn to trust ourselves by meeting those shadow voices in ourselves, then we start to actually access more and more of our own confidence, our own light, our own trust in being ourselves. And so what I see in bullying is that it is an incredible journey of taking responsibility on an individual level for healing our own shadow. And that along the way, if we can find other people who are doing the same, if I can provide a platform, you know, in the Goddess Voice Academy where people can come, where they feel safe to talk about all the crap as well as all the, you know, and say, you're beautiful underneath that. You're beautiful underneath your fear. And Sapphira, you're doing the same. You're trying to provide this in burlesque. And Devi, the same in burlesque. And everyone we've heard from is trying to provide essentially a safe container to just have people be themselves, whatever that is. And I think everyone here is doing that. And so if enough of us dare to face our own wound, our own shadow, and say, I'm going to try and trust and believe and love myself in spite of my failings and my flaws and my peculiarities and my not fitting in, then these platforms will start to be more and more visible, more and more accessible, and we're going to all start to heal individually. Because it's really challenging to step up and take individual responsibility for your own journey when all the messaging out there is stay safe, don't stand out from the herd, like, and getting punished for standing out from the herd, getting shamed, getting excommunicated, all these, like herd mentality, control mechanisms. And I love what this code of conduct idea, that we can provide a different code of conduct rather, beyond the herd mentality, that is saying, what is it like to feel safe as an individual? What it is like to love ourselves individually and to love one another and to trust and know that sometimes we will be in competing situations, which Red, you referenced, but that doesn't mean that I have to apologize for being me. There is a place for me. So, I think bullying will be there until we all really start to become more conscious of our own stuff and to heal it and to gather with our fellows who are also wanting to take care of each other rather than wanting to control each other. So it's a big collective journey, shifting from herd mentality to an individualized belief in your own light and the need to self-express, that we are here to be ourselves. We're born unique. We're born individual. And I see this as a huge collective shift in humanity, really. And bullying is one of the manifestations of that journey. So, yeah, I kind of wanted to put that global picture on offer that we're all doing it. And it's challenging. So I don't know how that resonates with you, Sapphira, but I think the voice is a really big part of it. And everyone here has spoken to speaking up. And the daring to speak up means that, we kind of put ourselves out there to face the slings and arrows, don't we? And the thing that keeps us going is this trust in ourselves, believing in ourselves, healing the wounds and finding the sisters and brothers who are on that same journey.
Yes, I think that is so beautifully put. And I like the idea of, like, if I started my dance school again with the teachers and team, I quite like the idea of actually saying, if you've got a wound in your feminine energy or in your role modeling and you are drawn to burlesque, you might find your students putting you in a female archetype role or someone that was mismanaging their expectations from a different dynamic, and it's getting brought up. Like, I'd love to train people on the idea of projection now, because I think I understand it and I could actually articulate it, and I could say, then when it turns into bullying, we're already actually catching it before it's actually expressed itself, because we're not calling it bullying anymore. This is actually a malfunction of something deeper in them. They're coming to burlesque because they're trying to repair something, quite often that's been shut down, but it might happen in the kind of in the healing process that it metamorphoses into something, and all the people around them, the students, the teachers, the producers, could be kind of transferred into that problem role that they're trying to resolve. They're not even conscious that they're doing it, but it becomes a bullying behavior or a bullying issue. I think I've got the skills to articulate that a bit better now through like 15 years and working with you. But that's just brilliant. I love everything you said. Thank you so, so much. And you're right about the playing small in Australia mentality. And, I think other cultures understand ambitions, and there's like a bit more sort of applause when people try and like stick their head above like the sort of the standard. So it's interesting. But yeah, I just adore what you said, and everything is so valid. And the voice is not something we always use in burlesque, like performance wise, but actually it's probably the reason we're using our bodies and our clothes and taking them off to express something that the voice can and can't express verbally. It becomes a physical expression. So that's incredible. The wonderful bitch Sassidy, who has a code of conduct that we can look at in a minute. But would you like to share like your thoughts, and if you want to, a bullying experience, what it felt like and how it resolved and what it was?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you want to see our full code of conduct, check out cabaretcalgary.com. Just a little plug in there. Like I said, I came from the world of acting, and the most significant bullying experience of my life thus far was through my university there, where I was finding quite a lot of success, and that didn't sit well with some of my peers. And then as time went on, there were rumors being spread about me about why I was getting the roles I was getting, which kind of alienated me from my peers and from my mentors, and inevitably set me up to experience a lot of casting couch situations. And if you don't know what that is, that's when you are offered a role in exchange for sexual favors, or you're sexually assaulted and then kind of swept under the rug. Sorry, that's one of the few times I've talked about it. And that took me a long time to get through and understand. There was a lot of minimizing of myself to stay safe through that. And I fully acknowledge that I was going through my own things. I was certainly discovering my own queer identity in that time. And so I'm certain I wasn't always kind to myself. But through burlesque, I sort of healed more and more, and can now speak openly about that years later.
Let's give her a little sprinkle, not a clap, but just because that was really brave to share that, and thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done.
So through burlesque, I chose Bitch Sassidy for a reason. I chose an aggressive name like that for a reason. I do want it to offset people. I do want it to make people question their feelings around words like that, and especially around words that are meant to be demeaning towards them folks. And it's interesting the amount of cis white men who will not call me bitch, even at my insistence. And everybody else is like, right, bitch, that's what you want to be called? Let's do it. Let's work on that. So sweet. And certainly through burlesque, I've made a new community around myself, and I'm very grateful to be in Calgary, which is a smaller city, and have the opportunity here to create what I probably wouldn't have the space to in a larger metropolitan city, which has a lot more established performers and a bigger scene altogether. So here I met quite a few people who I'm just so honored to know them, so they are able to share their experiences as well with me. I acknowledge the privilege I have as a thin person, as a white person, as a young person, as a person with a middle-class financial background. Those are all privileges that I have as a cis passing person, I should say, that people in my community don't. And my wife is trans, and through her and through my friends, I've seen the importance of my voice being used as somebody with the privilege to kind of take off that pressure and that exhaustion that it comes from constantly being questioned, or the microaggressions that happen and the harm that comes in backstages, on stages, online, and being someone who can step in and support my community and kind of protect them from that awfulness that constantly have to go through. Certainly in this last year, Black Lives Matter movement has raised up quite a lot to an international scene, but it's been around for a long time before that. But through that, I've learned a lot more about what it means to, what microaggressions are for folks who are racialized, and what it means for colorism, and certainly through my wife, the things that the transphobia that she faces, and the homophobia that we face together. So those are some of the larger topics that we have to manage. And burlesque is a queer art form, you know, it is about sexuality, and it's about exploring that sexuality, and that can be a really scary place for a lot of people. Talking about newbies coming in, the babies coming in, there's one lady who is in a small town, and the sort of abuse she's facing because she's pursuing burlesque blew my mind, because I never really considered that it could be looked at in such with such disdain. But that's still happening, and being able to talk to her about that and help her navigate those situations has been really, really great. And I feel that if somebody had been there for me in my situation, that I could have come out of that sooner and perhaps made fewer mistakes and harmed fewer people in my journey of healing, because certainly hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else can speak to this. I definitely feel like this is a strong movement in Western Canada anyway, is this idea of having diversity on your stages. You should have fat-bodied performers. You should have people of color, and they shouldn't be a small proportion, you know? Has it been harder for me to find work? Yes, absolutely, and that's okay. You know, that's why I produce, to create opportunities for folks who are extraordinary and truly extraordinary. Burlesque has roots in helping femmes stay out of situations that would be harmful to them, to have their own independence. And I think with us as a community pushing towards that for all people, we're sort of healing those wounds of our past, and we are setting up our future generations for success so that they can dive even deeper into the work and heal all of those scars that remain. And I'm like absolutely thrilled with everything that's been going on. I feel a little overwhelmed because everyone has made such great points and it's been so interesting, and I'd love to just like have an individual conversation with each of you. But burlesque, sorry, back again. Bullying in burlesque, what I've sort of noticed from my position with all the privileges I have is, one, how do I protect the people, and how do I remain somebody who's tapped into the community so I have my finger on the pulse of what's going on. If I'm not a safe person for people to go to, do I have somebody who is and can report things anonymously to me or other members of my community? Like I said, there is a board of 5 of us who make up Cabaret Calgary, and we all come from very different perspectives. So that's been really cool when we sit down and talk about, okay, who's missing from this table, whose voice isn't being heard, who's not being seen on stage. I'm really excited to say that there's somebody in our community who's reaching out to folks with disabilities. And in particular, there's this one guy who has Down syndrome, and baby, he is down to burlesque. And I'm so thrilled for him. He's amazing. I'm gonna try and get him in our next online show. So if you're able to join and cheer him on, he's a total babe and just like is feeling himself. So I'm excited for it to expand into that sort of accessibility. The bullying I've experienced or seen from my position as a burlesque producer has certainly been accessibility. So access to folks who have a certain standing in the community, who have a certain celebrity status, and how it's become this negotiation between folks who are harmful in the community but have great standing on a larger scale. And how do you navigate conversations with those? How do you find resolution to bullying with people who don't have to answer to you, who don't feel you have any power over them? And we're independent artists. There's no HR, there's no hierarchy in that regard. And when you're a Calgary producer, somebody at, say, Beehoff isn't going to necessarily listen to me. They don't know who I am. So we have to navigate the bullies in our community who have deep roots without then like throwing our careers away. I don't know if anyone else can relate to that.
Oh God, yeah. Not just that, not just in this. Like, I was amazed that that's actually, you know, documented in organizations where there is HR, darling. So it's incredible thinking burlesque was like this kind of fringe thing, and that's why it's going on. Well, it's not. It's even happening in museums, government-funded art galleries. It's in, you know, a real pandemic. Like, so yeah, I think, and I think that is kind of actually one of the tactics of these people, this hierarchical bullying, because they can't be touched, and they tend to put themselves in those positions or bully their way to those top positions. So it's it's a very, very interesting topic, and that is one we can address when we talk about solutions. Should we quickly scoot to Jake and Lady Blue Phoenix, because I'd love to hear their voices, and then we can talk about some of these ideas of solutions and some of the things coming up. But really awesome work, and thank you for sharing. Jake, how would you like to go forward? I mean, an idea was to share an instance where you've been bullied and what that looked like and how it felt and how it resolved, but I'm really open to any variation of that.
I mean, what I've been bullied for my entire life is the femininity that I inherently have in myself and just personally. And I think that that's what I've come to find out after almost 33 years is that that is my superpower. And I'm no longer going to apologize for that. I'm no longer going to try to appease someone else and try to make them feel comfortable with me. I'm done. I'm done with that, because I've been saying this a lot, and I think that the pandemic has brought this on, is that we only get to live this life as this person once. You don't get a redo. And I mean, from the moment you're born, you're running toward death. And if you to be really frank, and when there's something as such as a global pandemic that can take your life from you just for being, I think it really puts a lot of things into perspective. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I could go on. I could roll out the list of bullying instances in my life, but I think the one that the through line of it all has been this feminine side of myself. And I do realize that as a male presenting body who has muscles, and I started in the gymnastics world and then became the dance world, and then people have this specific idea of what I should be like, or how I should behave, or what I should pursue. And I got this really amazing opportunity with Cosmopolitan magazine, and it was this feminine presenting host kind of character, and it ended a relationship that I had, and it was ending all these other jobs I had because people were so uncomfortable with that. And stepping into that world, it allowed me to step into myself in the way that I was when I was a little kid, before I realized other people were making fun of me, and so I had to hide myself. And so the person that I've slowly had to chip away all these barriers and walls with myself is that little kid that was running around pretending to be Jessica Rabbit in my grandmother's 90s and costume jewelry. That's just who I am now. And it's so fun to get to do that. But I think for me, even stepping into the burlesque world, I was kind of in between this drag and burlesque world. And I think a lot of people were saying really mean things about me in the drag world because I wasn't wearing a wig, or I wasn't, padding or looking super, super feminine. And then in the burlesque world, it was too drag. Oh, you're just a dancer. You're not a burlesque person. And it's who made these rules? Who made all of this? And so I think for me, it's been a good lesson in full self-acceptance and full stepping outside of myself to see objectively, to be how can I change this situation for future people? And that is when I go in there, I am nothing but nice. I'm nothing but professional. And when I get out there, I will leave you no excuse but to accept exactly what I did and that I deserve to be there. Mm-hmm. And anytime I step on stage, that is what I do. I try not to be competitive with others. I'm competitive with myself. And I'm when I get out there, I'm going to kick ass. And that's it. And how I got my start in burlesque was with, a major celebrity in the burlesque world who is, known by lots of people. And I, recently had come to find out from a mutual friend of hers that, this person said that I would be more successful if I was more masculine. And that it was a hard blow to take, especially after all the work that I've done to get myself to the point where I am now. And I had to realize, I'm yeah, but that is that person's vision of what they want for me. That's not what I want for myself. And I know that seeing all the things that have come to me have been because I've accepted myself and no longer hiding that. And no matter what stature, no matter what place, no matter what standing, like what Bitch said was, that means nothing. That means nothing. and you just have to be more accepting of people and see them for what they are and what they present. And that's what I'm here. I'm here to break the rules. Like, if you give me rules, I'm gonna kick that ass. And like, no, I'm over it. I'm over the rules. So yeah, I just think for me, it's like that bullying stuff. It still plays with my head a lot, and still there's always that self-doubt that, you know, will come up and be that, you know, creepy critter in the corner. But I think that for me, I just want to be as happy and as full as I can be, because then I can change the world that way. I can go into a place and change the world with that acceptance of myself. Because if I'm not happy with me, I'm not happy with anybody, you know?
Yes. That was the thing I realized when I did the mirror process on this personal development course. A lot of my resentment and bullying issues were coming at me because it was triggering my belief about me. If I didn't believe that about me, it wouldn't hurt so much.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, that's exactly what it is. And I think that comes with a lot with all the movements that have been coming up so much, from the trans rights movement to Black Lives Matter. It's that people are so fixed on this idea of what the world is, and that world, it never existed to begin with. So it's this steadfast hold on people trying to keep this terrible fractured system alive, and that it never should have even been that way in the first place. So it's like, just come back, we're going to burn it all and then rebuild it. And I think that's what's going to ultimately end bullying too. And I know that word is thrown around so much. You know, if someone said something mean to me, like, that's bullying. No, there's an inherent system of what bullying is. And I think that we're all getting a real good look, especially white people. We are really, really getting a good look at what that is.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I think you're right. We can, hopefully future generations can start with a completely clean slate where there was, you know, none of this oppression and, you know, I mean, I'm amazed when I go to the schools around London now, because it's just multi-faith and everybody mucks in together and there's no division and they don't see each other. Children have never seen each other with the labels, you know, and even less now. And I think there's hope in that, because you know, that just creates complete freedom for anybody to step up and do anything. So I love what you said. I feel like some things that are being said right now need to be turned into little Instagram graphics, you know, that we can like have as self-help tips from the anti-bullying panel. But everything you said is amazing. And I'm so glad that you have realized how breaking the rules and being you and just, you know, is the best thing you can be, because you're incredible and your energy just pings off that Instagram like, yeah, you just completely made me, I've been smiling every time I've kind of discovered you. So thank you. I mean, honestly, I need my world brightened up, and, you know, if I ever need it, I just flick over to your page. So
yeah, for all the throw up emojis that have been commented on my pictures, that is what I do it for, is right there. So thank you.
Oh, well, definitely. Mwah. You're absolute, yeah, total non-disappointment. And you know what, that's the realization I came to. All these people, like who they are, I don't know, trying to like dull my light, and actually my light was perfect and is amazing, and I should have just stepped into it right then and there at the age of 8 and said, watch me swish this tail. I'm not going to be, you know, bullied into a corner and shut down. And the stage has kind of finally given me that platform back, and it's been incredible. And you know what, each of us should be grateful that in a way we are the kind of misfit. I know that's a weird word. I'm trying to think of a better one, but I feel like that's the peculiarity is the thing. I'm proud to not fit into that kind of contained stereotypes people want to seem to put people in. So amazing. Underdog could be the word. I can't, it's not quite, I'll think of it. I'll think of it at about 4 a.m. and I'll have to ring you all. You know, when those words come to you, or like you're shopping and it'll be like 3 weeks in the future, I'll be buying something like sausages and I'll be like, that's that word. Anyway, now the Lady Blue Phoenix, certainly not the least but not last, the most amazing, incredible individual that I've had the pleasure of meeting in person, covered in balloons in London many years ago, and just keeps drawing me back to her. Would you like to share your experience and anything to that kind of where we're leading the conversation now, darling?
Yes, I would definitely like to. So, I mean, like I said, I'm from America, so I've kind of seen the ugly sides of, you know, being bullied for, well, anything you could possibly think of. obviously I've always been a larger woman, so that was usually the more common aspect that a lot of the names that I used to get called were, oh, look, it's fatty fat, it's the fat girl. Oh, it's, can you feel the floor shaking? It's probably Tanisha, things like that. So I was always, when I was growing up, I didn't have confidence. That was kind of stripped by, reality and, sadly, and even in my family, except for my father, bless his heart, but I was kind of the black sheep, kind of like the outcast. It's like, you're there when you need to be there, but when they don't want you there, you're not there. Like, I think growing up, the weirdest thing I ever experienced was doing a beauty pageant and told that I would have won the beauty pageant had I been more accepting of my cultural heritage and background. Had I actually worn something more traditional, I would have won. So, fast forwarding to my start in burlesque, I went to a show and I was literally blown away by the ladies on stage. I loved it. Like the confidence that just you felt come from them. And this is after living in, Japan, and over there you kind of have to conform. Especially if you work or live there, you kind of have to, stay in your little box, unless it's weekends, and then you get to come out of your box, and then you have to go back in your box during the week. So I was still kind of in that mentality, and my partner, he was just like, come on, let's, let me, I know there's you in there. How can I bring you out? So we went to a show and I was amazed, and sitting there in the audience, I remember just looking up and thinking, wow, I want to do that. But there's nobody here my size or color, or I see no one who looks like me. So why? Why do I even want to go there? Eventually he convinced me to join. So I joined, and I remember the first time I saw another person of color on stage was at Burlesque Idol when Violet Blaze was judging. And Violet Blaze was my idol. I adored her to bits, and she blew me away. I was so in awe of her presence and charisma. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to, burlesque for me is not just my voice. It's kind of me burying my soul for people to get a glimmer of who I am inside. It's me letting people see like the reality of what I believe, that positive energy, that, equality, because we need that. we don't have that. And when I saw Violet performing, I was there thinking I could, use burlesque as my voice, as, showing the world anyone can do this. Everyone is beautiful inside and out, everyone has something unique about them that is amazing, that we need to show each other more instead of hide away. And then I remember the train journey back, and I was with my mentor at the time and another girl from our class, and things took an ugly turn because sadly alcohol was involved, and she was a little intoxicated, and she kind of said some really horrible, nasty things to me, to the point I got home and I just remember crying for 4 hours after. I was utterly broken. My partner was just like, what's happened? I talked to you about 2 hours ago. Everything was fine. And now you're home crying. What's going on? And I just said, they said I was too fat. They said I was ugly. They said no one would want to see me on stage. They said they had hope I would have dropped out eventually. And they were really disappointed that that didn't happen. I was utterly crushed. They then messaged me the next day and were like, well, if you still want to do the show, you can do it. But, that's all you're going to do. I'm not going to let you be in the troupe because it's not like you actually can keep up with us. And I'm just kind of like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do it. And then she just kept baiting me and baiting me. And I kept just sitting there like, yeah, no, you've hurt me. I'm not going to do it. And then more nastiness.
Mm.
And I just kind of looked at it and I just decided I'm not going to do burlesque anymore. I'm done.
Mm.
So I kind of extinguished my flames for a year and a half. And then I decided one day, I was like, you know what? I've been told I'm fat. I've been told I'm ugly. I've been told I'm not unique, that no one wants to see that I am 3001 things that I'm not my whole life. Fuck it. I'm done. If no one wants to see it, then you don't have to fucking well look, do you? Like, you can avert your eyes, you can leave. I do not care. I'm going to just let that light shine and burn.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been back since then. I mean, I've had audience members walk out in disgust, and before they've gone away, I've just kind of gone over and been like, hi, you going on? Because it's burlesque. People have this stereotype of burlesque being everyone is small and slim and it's glitzy and glamorous and classic and all that other stuff that it's not all the time. And I think the virtual world has broken these standards more than we want to believe, but it's also made it so it's more accessible than everything else. And while we have the positives, there are still the negatives about, you know, shows that still only cast certain people of body types or certain acts or certain music or this and that. And then we have people who gatekeep, and we don't need people telling us, you can't be a part of my crew because you don't do this, 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 and this, or, oh, you don't fit this door just yet because you don't wear shoes for one of your acts on stage, even though it's about self-confidence and loving yourself. It's these little silly things that are literally destroying what could be a beautiful community.
Mm.
And I think we all need to literally stand together, use our voice and say, you know what, we're not standing for it anymore. And we need to start making people responsible for it. You know, and it's not just about the bullying or the racism or everything else or the cultural appropriation stuff. We need to just make people realize, look, this is not okay. You wouldn't do it if your mom was watching you. Why are you doing it behind closed doors? Why are you doing it when you know you shouldn't be?
That's such a good point. So some solutions I thought we could look at were something that very much comes up in this book is actually training people and creating, like, I would like to look at the code of conduct that you've made actually, Bitch, because it's so cool. But I think that something I haven't done, I've tried to say in my community and my classes that these are our values. I've never actually said we don't tolerate bullying. And something that Anne-Marie Quigg very much recommends is actually defining bullying, training people who come to a show or join a company or go to a dance school, like what bullying is, what it looks like, and just addressing that. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. You could just have that quickly as part of, like, look, this is the toilets, this is this is the, you know, front stage, backstage, you get your refreshments there. By the way, this is our policy on bullying. If we see anybody, you know, talking negatively about a body or body shaming, if we hear any negative words or any discrimination, we don't tolerate it. And we want you to come and tell us if you see it, because we're so, you know, passionate about weeding it out. That could just be, that as what I've just said then, could be a very quick abbreviation in the beginning of a show or a dance school that could be just immediately bring it to the forefront. And then you could have, as Bitch and the group have in Calgary, a code of conduct that's a bit more detailed that goes into paperwork when someone signs up and joins with a contract. But you could even mention that, you know, in your ticket selling process so that the audience understands it. I never thought training. So I just wanted us to all quickly put our thoughts around that. The other idea is a policy which kind of sits alongside the training. So you would say, this is what bullying is, this is what we don't want to see, and we have this person here, like I'm the director, I'm the person you come to talk to. If you notice it, please report it to me so I can do something about it. And you know, a mentor could be another thing. So the policy sits alongside the training, and then maybe you have a mentor or a support person. And the other big thing that only just came to my thoughts as Jake said it is, can we all do, and also Dominique said it, can we do some work on self-love so that we recognize that, you know, sticks and stones may break my bones, but they're going to break them more if I believe the stick in my own head more. It's almost like you bring to me a mirror to look at that stick when you call me that name. If I didn't think I was unattractive, I wouldn't feel unattractive if you said I was, you know. I'd just be like, oh, like there's other things that are water off a duck's back to me, but the things that I believe about myself that are the most deepest. So I think self-help and self-love issues are really massive in this wound healing. So what do people think about those ideas? Like, so we've got about 15 minutes left. Devi, could you see that if we all just had a minute each, Devi, can you just see a way you might find implementing training and actually a policy that you would have on a link on your website as a positive step forward, and highlighting a buddy or a person someone could go to?
Yeah, we already have this at Cabaret Curiosa for a few years, because we also had issues with people in the audience. So I'm really trying to like brief everyone on how to behave and how not to behave and what's like not tolerated.
Has it helped?
It has, yes, because there are a few people that were like a bit provocative towards our performers that just don't come to our shows anymore. And we have like this really safe, nice space where everyone just feels safe. And that's what I wanted to create.
Great.
And that's brilliant. It's really brilliant. And also me, I feel like kind of a mentor to a lot of performers we have from around here, because they feel like they can talk to me. And for me, a lot of people are also like some kind of safety net. So if people bully me and I start to believe the stick and to change my self-perception, I can just talk to them and say, I'm feeling really down today because they said this and I don't want to believe this. And then people can say, okay, don't listen to it. It's not true. It's bullshit and everything. I think just connecting, like also with people like you who went through the same thing is like a healing process. This already helps, because sadly, this is everywhere. When a lot of people come together, there is bullying, and we can change this. I think if we work together and if we change how people perceive themselves and others, and if we don't tolerate it, maybe, yeah, it's wishful thinking. I want this for the burlesque scene and for a lot of other scenes, because it's, like I said, everywhere in the arts, everywhere where people just come together, someone will offend or hurt other people's feelings. And you just need to also teach them and say, this is hurtful, this change how people perceive themselves. Maybe sometimes they don't even see what they do with you when they say hurtful things. Maybe they don't think about it and they just say it, and yeah, they don't think about what it does to you.
No, I think that's really great. Dominique, do you have any thoughts on solutions and training policy? Just a way to make it a bit more visible at a small show level, in a dance school, in an artistic director capacity?
Look, this is so big, but I think we need to actually go a step even further from the I do not tolerate bullying. And I think we actually have to say we don't actually tolerate it, but we also need to provide a safe space for every single one of us who has judgment, and we all do, to say, I am feeling judgmental. And for that person who has judgment to be safely accepted as well. And so this really incredibly honest dialogue where, all the racist thoughts, all the judgmental thoughts, all the critical thoughts are, we don't put a lid on it and say, you're not allowed to think those things, you're not allowed to express those things. We actually open the lid on everything, but provide a space where, okay, if you're really feeling these things, if you are in judgment, let's have a conversation about that where we take care of you and it's safe for you to say, I'm judging. So I think it's really dangerous just to shut it down, really dangerous. Because then it goes into this sort of, and I come from a healing perspective and I come from a self-expression perspective. And so to heal something, we have to tell the truth about it. We have to be truthful. And the voice for me is a place of deep truth. And that means everything. And so everyone has to be taken care of, whether they're wounded from judgment or whether they're judging. Everyone has to be taken care of.
But I think this is a place where you have to step out, for instance, from a show or something, so people there don't get hurt. I think you need to take those people and step out and then talk to them and say, what happened that you're doing this? What's the background of you hurting other people, and why does it make you feel a certain way that you want to feel now, and that's why you're saying bad stuff about performers. I don't want my performers to feel unsafe on stage because people shout something mean or just say something mean to them. I just want to keep them in the safe space where they feel comfortable. And I feel like, yes, definitely to heal the thing, you can't just ignore it and stop it and just say no. You also have to work on it, and you have to go down to the root and find out what's the problem.
Yeah, so you're talking about two things: a place where in the performance people are protected, and there's a code of conduct and a code of response, but then also I think there needs to be a space, a forum somewhere where people actually feel safe to say I'm judgmental.
Yes.
How do we heal that? How do we express that? How do we resolve that? And then everyone is more safe.
I love that.
So that's my thought, in that healing and self-expression. Somehow we have to create structure.
It could even be an MC could say, tonight you're going to see a show that might provoke some responses in you. You might see bodies you haven't seen before. You might see this that you haven't experienced before, because this is burlesque and we're taking you into our world. But we invite you to notice when you have a reaction, what that reaction is. And, rather than kind of respond negatively, just be self-aware of those reactions and just keep a lid on it. And then, talk to us afterwards. We're here to provoke you. We're here to make you think differently. Maybe if we kind of find a way to articulate some of that in our introductions to the shows, it would give a space for the audience to go, okay, right, I'm going to experience something. They're preparing me. So it's not a shock when someone rips off her bra and has bloody underpants to represent a menstruation act or something. And the audience is like, whoa, that's not what I wanted to see. If we maybe prepped them, but this is what we do. We're here to provoke you and make you think differently. It could help with that sort of reaction, because sometimes the acts are deliberately shocking, but people aren't prepared for it. I love that suggestion, and I like that, Dominique. We shouldn't just silence it, because that in a way is what sort of has probably got those people there in the first place, being silenced to some extent. So yeah, that's awesome. Does anyone else want to share some thoughts on a training system or the code of conduct? We could quickly share my screen and look at your code of conduct if you like, bitch. Who would like to see her code of conduct?
I'd love to say something before we jump into that.
Oh yeah, go
just in regards of the conversation that's being had. I know we've talked a lot about safer spaces, braver spaces, but I really think that we should have a movement towards accountable spaces, because as artists, we're inevitably going to cross a line as we do this exploration into art. We're going to challenge people, and I think accountability is really the power that's moving us forward. And I think artists are always leading the change, the social change, the political change, and especially in something like burlesque or drag. So accountable spaces, that's where it's at. I've got an awesome article I'd be happy to share with you if you're interested in that.
Wow, you are just a fount of written information, which I love, because it's so excellent when you can actually look at literature. Can you just tell me, because now I'm feeling a bit ignorant, what would you define as an accountable space? What is that?
and somebody can jump in if they want, if they feel a little bit more well-versed in this, but it's, if you have an action that harms someone or creates an uncomfortable space for someone, that you acknowledge that you validate their feelings and from where they're coming from. And you don't need to necessarily justify yourself. They don't need to justify themselves. You just acknowledge each other. You see each other. If there is harm, you express your apologies for that harm. You listen to that person so you don't cause that harm in the future. Does this sound about right to everyone? Versus if you're saying you're a safer space, a braver space, you can't guarantee that. You can't guarantee that no one's going to get hurt, that no one's going to be offended, that there's not going to be some sort of friction. You can't. But if you go forward and you say, we're an accountable space, and should you find yourself in a place of harm, we will do everything in our power to make sure that we see that we help you heal if that's something you want. Like, we're here to support you through that journey and to do better going forward ourselves.
I love that. Yeah, I would love to see that article. Jake, do you want to quickly jump in on any of the solutions we're kind of throwing around?
Well, I saw Miss Lady Blue Phoenix raise her hand, so I was like,
oh,
I think.
Sorry, I am like staring at the camera to do my best sense of engaging, and I'm not looking down. You're kind of in the blurry part of my.
It's
vision.
all right, no worry. Thank you, Jake, for saying that. I do definitely agree with the accountability bit that Bitch has said. I also think that we don't just need to be accountable at shows and stuff. I think it's weird. This is the one thing that me and a lot of people I know have talked about. We've all said the same thing. We are, as performers, as producers, we report to no one. We can do whatever we want. And the only thing that happens at the end of the day is either someone goes and says, oh, I'm not going to work with them again, or, oh, well, I just want to apply for that show. I do think as the burlesque thing as a whole, we need to have an actual moral code of conduct. We do need to be a lot more accountable. I mean, I have trigger warnings on acts of mine that can be a little bit dark and things like that. And no matter how much you can prepare and prep the audience and do things sometimes, there's still going to be that one person who will still sit there and be shocked and surprised with what they see. So I do agree that while we want to make spaces safe and accepting, we need to also make them accountable and actually do the whole point of making everyone feel safe. But in the same breath, I do feel the performers need to be made to feel a bit more safer, because we're the ones exposing ourselves and the arts. We are the ones who are going on the stage and expressing our souls, our inner light, our voices. And to have someone sit there and look at you and be like, oh, this is disgusting, I don't want to see it or say that, is going to be hurtful. So I do think there needs to be a balance weighed out. And then my other idea was, what is the harm in getting away like a council, people who are well-versed, who have been in burlesque for a while, or representatives or something, just so that we have people we then can report to. We can then have people we can talk to who can then hold people accountable for things that they do. We don't have much in the way of unions and stuff like that for burlesque, but I do think we need something.
Yeah, that's very, very good points. Anyone else?
I see. Hi, Sapphira. I see in the UK there's actually a union that you can report to, which I think it's a great thing. I know here in South Africa we've had a show where the comments coming from a group of men were so derogatory that the producer stopped the show and asked them to please leave. And yeah, it was quite a thing, but was literally stopped the show and said, listen, this is what burlesque is about. And we don't do that here, and we'd like you to please leave right now. Which I was incredibly proud of her for doing that. It needed to be done. And she started the show right from the beginning again. And we were like, please, Could you kind of respect everybody here? But she didn't leave it there. She sent somebody out after those guys to go and say, listen, why were you doing all of those things? So there was that that balance that you're talking about and that accountability. And I think as producers and directors and owners of companies, it's our responsibility to train our dancers, to train our performers, what is right, what's wrong within ourselves, amongst ourselves. And when you go out there towards, the public as well, and you know that you're going to get those things and how to handle it. I think the training has to come from the top and filter it down. And from there, starting those buddy systems, those accountability systems with each other, and those mentoring things, that this is okay, this is not okay, this is what we're going to tolerate, this is not what we're not going to tolerate, how to handle conflict when you experience it, on stage, off stage, in backstage. I think it's very important that those systems are put in place, especially by producers and directors and owners of companies.
Love all of that. And a conflict resolution, and actually understanding different stages of conflict, because that's another thing that can be very useful to look at and just go, okay, that's where we are right now. There are different stages of conflict, and it's like documented as well. I find diagrams and literature really helpful. Should we quickly just look at to close, and can everyone go till just 5 past if we just go 3 more minutes? I'd love to look at your code of conduct, and I have it handily, one I prepared earlier. Just going to share my screen. This is the look at you getting a prime time slot. Well done to Mitch.
Really spoiled.
This is the Cabaret Calgary, which is not Vancouver, as I discovered with my time zoning today. Apologies again. So code of conduct is here. Look how prominent this is, guys, on their website. It's so prevalent. And this kind of thing, I think, will really resonate with you, Lady Blue Phoenix. It's quite long, so I won't read the whole thing out, but or get you to a bitch. But I just wanted to just show that it just actually has all the different types of, bullying and abuse defined, and consequences for violating the code. I think that's just excellent, isn't it? And so does Dr. Anne-Marie Quigg, author of Bullying in the Arts. So, I'll try and get a quote from her. You can stick that in brackets at the bottom or something. But I think this is an excellent example of maybe something that could come from our panel. We could all possibly on the email thread, just discuss some terms and some definitions that could go into something like this. And imagine just that being addressed when anybody joined your dance school or came to your festival for the first time. Does anyone want to just jump in with any comments on this incredible, very, very visible and quite, I think, setting a tone and, and already creating an accountable space by just having that there. I just think really commend you. How did you arrive at this, bitch, out of interest?
Sorry, I think Lady Phoenix was unmuted. Were you going to say something?
I'll wait till after. No worries.
There were a lot of discussions. There was a lot of discussions in the Edmonton and Vancouver and Calgary scenes individually and then all together around who's missing from the table. How do we create spaces that are more sensitive to more people who might want to approach this? How do we grow our community? There were multiple meltdowns of communities, members leaving, and a huge turnover. And as a company, we were challenged by some people who either wanted to know where we stood or just didn't like us. And they were like, well, what are you doing? And so it was like, it became very clear to us that we needed something to go back to, something hard, a hard copy of something that was like, this is it, this is what we're about, and this is the standard we expect from ourselves, and we expect you to hold us to, and vice versa. It's super important to me that burlesque in Canada, that performance in Canada has a professional level that we strive to. we're very fortunate to be right by the States because there is a huge community there, but we also are kind of dwarfed by it, like shrunk by it, and it creates this sense of scarcity and competition, and then the bullying that comes out of that. So to try and be the tide that raises all ships, this standard, this code of conduct, this standard of professionalism was extremely important for us to say, no, this is how we are going to raise everybody. This is what we expect, and you will come to expect it because you'll feel good at our shows. Our shows are going to be premier in our city, and people will see that.
I think it's just an excellent example, and everyone is saying in the chat, and we're now at 6 minutes past, so I'm conscious of maybe closing it off, but Red Baroness has said absolutely amazing and so necessary. Lady Blue Phoenix has said really good. Do think this is something we all need to adopt. And Devi Letalis has said, I had a look at it before. It's really brilliant. I really need to adapt my English. And I think it's also amazing. And Dominique said she's inspired and to revisit her own code of conduct in her business. So I know, you're really setting an incredible example for us all, Bitch. Lady Blue, you did have a few things to just quickly say. Do you want to just be our final closing comment?
I do. Yeah, sorry. I just think the one thing that we all do need to, I think, grapple with as well, with not just the bullying stuff, is kind of where we draw the line between like acts that could be considered cultural appropriation and stuff, because some people see this as a form of bullying, and I do think where we can change this is, again, burlesque. I think the burlesque community needs kind of like a code of conduct, an actual set of rules that just all across the board, everyone's adopted it. Every newbie who comes through learns about these codes of conducts. And I do feel that this would help stamp out a lot of the problems that we are having with acts that are seen as troublesome, or the kind of like backlashing and, smear campaigns that happen. So that was just my thought on everything, because this is brilliant. But again, we need to look at where else we can add bits and pieces, definitely.
Yeah. And you're in the UK, Lady Blue Phoenix, so Equity is a really good union to join, and actually has a whole policy around brave and safe spaces and making that very visible. If you so that's something that happens. It's not global, but it definitely is. But yeah, we're thinking we could get together and work on something like this or something more global. So yeah, definitely. All right, I should let everybody go and love and leave you all. This is amazing and well done, and thank you again. And it has been an honor to have you all. I'm just going to stop sharing the screen so we can say goodbye and have the full view. Thank you, guys.